So we're going to do a little talk about herbs and the gifts that the Lord gave us. Would anybody be willing to read Revelation 22:2? I said, would anybody be willing to read Revelation 22:2? Oh, you're good. I know it's like
Say it again.
Revelation 22:2.
22:2.
Not just,
I would happily read.
it can be very disruptive, and I know ministry's going forward. I just want everybody to understand. We've been over here worried about Sonia.
Minister
Those
Tamara
are-
and
Yes,
Shantae.
I always get y'all two
Oh,
mixed up. Yeah, we've just been worried about them,
Yeah.
and that's what we've
Yeah,
been
we
talking
was
about, trying to,
asking, yeah.
and we just heard from them, they fell asleep.
Yeah, we
Oh.
want
Yeah, we just want to make
to
sure they were
okay.
okay. It's like, where they at? And they got,
No, I think because they did a lot to get up here, so I thought,
Yeah, but we
I thought
just
they
hadn't
probably
seen
weren't
them and
coming
we were
until
waiting to hear
later.
from them.
I was wondering where they went. I thought they were with you.
They left before us.
No, yeah.
Well, remember how you were saying your parents made you go to sleep after?
Exactly.
Maybe there's something to it.
Yeah, good point.
Drinking coffee.
Revelations 22.
Yeah, I mean, a lot probably comes out of you when you're being baptized. It probably takes a lot out of you.
So Revelation 22:2 reads as
Here you
this.
go.
In the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, there was a tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations.
Can you read that last part again?
Amen. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations.
Amen. Thank you for that. So, Revelation 22:2 happens to be one of my favorite Bible verses because it states what we're supposed to do with the leaves of the trees, what we're supposed to do with the herbs. When we talk about herbalism, we're talking about a system, and with any system, it comes with a culture. With ours from the culture of the Most High. Although a lot of our people have perished for a lack of knowledge of how to use the herbs, how to use the leaves of the trees. Back in, biblical times, whenever these verses were being recorded, trees were any plant. So when they say trees, they mean any plant.
Exactly.
They don't, and even today it's hard to distinguish between what's a tree and what's a plant. A bush, all of those. There's, those distinctions are made by us more so than the plants, but be that here and there. So when we talk about herbalism, we're talking about the usage of plants, plant material, leaves, seeds, roots, bark, any part of the plant that's either used for food, medicine, and some people use it for recreation. Some people use herbs, for recreation. But when we talk about herbalism, we have to understand which herbalism we're talking about.
Right.
Because depending on the culture you come from, is the way you're going to be using these leaves, seeds, roots,
Amen.
bark. They're going to be used differently. They're going to be thought of differently.
Amen.
They're going to be consumed, and you have to take into consideration. So if we talk about Western herbalism, which most people are when they go to the health food store and they start picking up jars of herbs and putting together things, they're not really considering the mental or the spiritual aspect of that herb, or that this is a whole plant that with the whole personality, with the whole profile, just like people are marvelous creations of the Most High. Plants are also a full body, a whole organism,
Yes.
and has to be respected as a whole, and has to be looked at as a whole. And Western medicine tries to pick apart herbs. They try to pick apart the herbal constituents or the active components of herbs, and that's what our pharmaceutical industry is.
Exactly.
Our pharmaceutical industry either takes a plant and isolates a single compound. I'm sure everybody's heard of like isoflavonoids and things like that, when they're talking about hormone replacement and things like that, they're talking about, just a small chemical part of a plant that's going to act on a certain part of the body. Or the pharmaceutical industry takes a plant phytochemical and makes a synthetic chemical that's supposed to act on the body in the way that plant chemical did. The reason why they do that is because you can patent something that you've made or that you've isolated. You can't patent anything. You can't say that I came up with this when the Most High came up with it. You can't claim to have made or invented something that someone else invented. But if you take it and you remix it, just like, I don't know how many YouTube creators or anything like that out there, or, we have a patent trademark expert here. So she knows that, you can't just take somebody else's creation and put your name on it. It's either yours or somebody else's. So what the pharmaceutical industry does is takes that synthetic chemical or that isolated phytochemical from a plant, and they put their name on it. The only problem with that is when you take a plant and say you isolate the estrogenic type compounds or the isoflavones from it, then it's going to act directly on a part of the body very intensely. And the thing about the body is that we go into, we develop wellness or sickness over time. It's not, it's not typically, an immediate, shocking type thing that happens to you. This is developing over time. Even something that they call acute illness, like when we get a cold or a flu, it's not because somebody gave us a cold or a flu. It's because we have a weak organ system that's out of harmony, out of whack, and we become susceptible to different things. But it's not, a pathogen or a germ or somebody that's made you sick. It's you who made you sick. It just happened over time. You didn't realize it was happening, and now you're dealing with the immediate consequences of it. And that's kind of what the pharmaceutical industry does. They will take a drug that will make your body sick in a way. Any drug is based on, drug quality is based on how it affects the liver. The more strong the effect, the harder it hits your liver, the quicker your body processes it, the different category of drug is classified as. Something that's gonna hit you quickly and give you a quick effect is, more potent and it's gonna get a different drug rating. So that's something to keep into consideration. So when we're taking herbs as a whole plant, we're getting the full effect as the Most High created it. We're getting everything that came with it, because humans do not understand every complex phytochemical relationship that's going on. There's no way to put all the pieces of the puzzle together and know exactly what's happening in someone's body when they consume an herb. Mm-hmm. So when you isolate something from that herb, like a pharmaceutical company does, it acts immediately on the body, but it's not balancing. Like, say for instance, if someone has heart problems and they're having swelling in their limbs, they could give them, a pharmaceutical diuretic. Mm-hmm. Only problem with that is that it's going to pull the potassium out of your system, because it's going to work so quickly and so shockingly on the body that's going to pull that potassium out of the body and it's going to cause other issues. Whereas if someone were to take the dandelion as a diuretic, dandelion as a whole plant contains all those nutrients, all the potassium that you needed, that's going to be taken out of your body by, peeing it out. Mm-hmm. The dandelion's replacing it as you're relieving yourself. So it's not something that's going to put your body into a state of shock. Mm-hmm. It's going to help heal you over time. An herb that helps heal your whole body over time is called an alternative. And there are several alternatives: burdock, cleavers, and usually these herbs are going to clean your blood. They're going to clean your lymph. And we know that the lymph nodes are a part of our immune system that are closely linked to our heart. So if we have a backup of waste in our bodies, it's going to get picked up by our lymph nodes, meaning our tonsils. We have lymph nodes all over our body. We have over 600 little spots all over our bodies that go off when there's an illness in the body. So herbs are one of the only things that will help soothe and naturally ease your body into the healing process if it needs it. So I have some herbs here. So for the people here, we're going to actually go into tasting some herbs, smelling some herbs, touching some herbs, and I want you to kind of remark and maybe write down what you experience when you taste these herbs, when you touch these herbs, when you smell these herbs. So we have our dandelion here. We have some catnip. We have some catnip. And so when we talk about herbs, we also need to keep in mind when we're talking about, we need to be sure that we're talking about what they actually are. So when I say dandelion, I'm talking about Taraxacum officinale. So that's the scientific name. That's the Latin name that is used to make sure that you're getting the right thing. So that's very important. Making sure that you're taking the right herb for you is very important. Making sure that if you're on prescription medication, knowing that not everybody is created equally in terms of taking herbs. Just like someone could be allergic to peanuts, which technically would be an herb because it's a plant. You know, you may not react the same way to a peanut. You may not react the same way to an herb. So there could be allergies involved in terms of herbs. For the most part, these herbs that we've picked, most people don't have an allergy to them. That's something to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is that if you're on prescription medication, certain herbs are contraindicated, or you're advised not to take them because they will interact with the prescription drugs. So if you're taking a kidney medication, you may not want to take, say, dandelion or burdock or these herbs that may interact with that prescription. When you're eating an herb like this, when you're just tasting it, it's not a big deal because you're not taking it in a therapeutic or medicinal way. But say you're drinking a quart of tea, then that's medicinal, and you more than likely may have a reaction if you're having a prescription that you're not supposed to be taking with that particular herb. But most culinary herbs, things that you're eating, won't have the same effect on you as taking it as a tea or a tincture or another, like a pill. It's going to be a lot different. So, did you have a question?
We were like, somebody said, could they bite it? Could they chew it?
Yes, please.
Yes.
And let me know what you experience. So, what I'd like for you to do is use your five senses. Look at it, taste it, touch it. Well, I don't know if you can really listen to it, but some people say that they do. Some people actually do talk to plants, but I have a story from my mom. Actually, she said that they, as children, they used to talk to the flowers, and the flowers would actually bend down to listen to them.
Oh, wow.
So.
What is the bitter good for?
Bitter's good for digestion.
And what else? For like if you have syphilis, the bacteria,
Antibacterial.
like wormwood is good for.
It's good for parasites. So what we've passed out here, we've passed out dandelion, we've passed out, so dandelion Taraxacum officinale, we've passed out catnip nepeta, we've passed out catnip, yes ma'am, that's catnip. Catnip has those little purple flowers on it. It's in the mint family, but let y'all experience it. Yeah, I'm gonna let y'all experience it, and then tell me what you experience when you take it. And then we have some mugwort, Artemisia vulgaris, and we have some mint. This is wild mint. It's a Mentha canadensis, which makes sense because Canada is right. I don't know. Detroit is basically Canada. I mean, we have a story. We got deported the other day because we ended up in Canada trying to get over to the Walmart. So for me, Detroit is basically Canada. So now, right now, what we have is let's see. I'm gonna go around the room and ask people what they're experiencing when they are, how your body's feeling, what you're smelling, what you're tasting, how you're feeling. So we have some dandelion leaves. We have some catnip here. And then a second, we're gonna go around the room and ask people what they experience and then tell them a little bit about these herbs and how they can be used. So this is mugwort. I'm gonna go through what the herbs do, but I guess we can go.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. So before I get into what the herbs do, I want to know how you guys experience them, what they taste like, how they felt, all that.
The dandelion was pretty tart, bitter, and coarse.
Okay.
So for me, the dandelion was a little bitter, a little tart, and chewing on it, the leaf was a little coarse.
I'm sorry, there's nothing that you've given. Everybody can touch, taste everything, right?
Yes, everybody can touch it. You know, you should. It's fine. No. These are for the most part culinary herbs, meaning they're used in food all the time. Whether you know it or not, it's a lot of times it's included in your food. Yep.
I feel that the catnip's minty.
Minty. Mm-hmm.
And it's like almost like an opening of a chest.
Mm-hmm.
Better.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Did you
You're
guys
very
get
much in
mugwort?
tune.
Did you get mugwort?
Okay. So Sister Mo was talking about the catnip and how it has a minty feel to it and how she feels as though she can breathe more easily with the catnip. The catnip is a part of the mint family. So catnip is the mint family. Catnip would be cooling. It would be stimulating. It would be soothing. Catnip is something that's soothing to the mind as well as to the body. It's a nervine, meaning it calms you down. So when we eat catnip, we have a different experience than when cats eat catnip. So for us, when humans eat catnip, it calms us down. It's great for nerves. It's great for anxiety. It's great to calm you down. It's also great for the respiratory system, just like mint would be. And just as Sister Mo noticed, the energy of catnip. When we talk about herbs, we talk about actions of it, and we also talk about the energy of it. So when we talk about the energy of an herb, we're talking about: is it cold? Is it hot? Does it make does it make your mouth cool, or does it make it hot? Is it drying or is it moistening? Is it relaxing or is it tightening? So that's when we're talking about the energetics of herbs. We're talking about how it makes us feel before we have a chance to ingest it and really let it work. Because in about 20 or 30 minutes, the herb is really working. You've really started digesting that herb, and you should really be feeling the actions of the herb is to calm you down. But when you first taste it, there's energy that herb has. Because like I said, it's a whole living being that you're taking in that has, you know, a complex personality just like we have a complex personality. So, did anybody else have any observations they wanted to share? What's sweet?
So I just put it in the mouth just now. It tastes a little sweet to me.
Yes.
It doesn't smell.
Like where? You
Yeah.
didn't smell it.
And this really would be good on a salad.
It's
Yeah,
really good.
definitely.
It is really good. He said, "Mine, I don't know what it's like."
So mugwort has a long history of being used in food. And when you have a sweet herb, that means it's nutritious to your body as well. It's called a nutritive, and they usually have a sweet taste to them. And you know, often you can eat as much of it as you want. No, you know, there's certain herbs you can't just eat any herb. You can't just take any herb medicinally because of how strong or how weak it is. But nutritive sweet herbs, you can eat as much as you want. You know, alfalfa, you know, the cilantro. Most of the nutritive herbs are things we use in cooking. Okay? So mugwort is also a calming herb. So the leaves of the mugwort are calming, but the roots of the mugwort are stimulating. So the leaves will put you to sleep, and the roots will wake you up. Yeah. So different parts of a plant will have different energies and actions. So the leaves might do one thing, and the roots might do another thing. Again, with herbs, not all herbs are created equally. Like elderberry, the flower and the berries are taken medicinally only once they're cooked or dried. But the leaves and the stems and the root, that's highly poisonous. If you eat it, then you're more likely will get very sick or die. So, you know, different parts of herbs can be used differently or they must be avoided. So it's important to know, you know, what part to use and when to use it.
So has anybody noticed any of these herbs in like the aloe berry I talked about?
No, I can't hear you.
I was just thinking, has anybody noticed any of these herbs in either medicinal medicines they picked up from the pharmacy or from food stuff? You'll be you might want to start checking the ingredients a little more on everything. You'll be surprised at what shows up where.
That's true.
And I just thought about that because the elderberry, y'all know, in the wintertime they put all the elder syrup out, especially for the children, all over every health food store, every pharmacy, everywhere you go.
As you said, you drink elderberry tea. Yeah, elderberry is like highly marketed because it's a broad spectrum antibiotic, antiviral, antifungal. It's anyone can use it from a child to an adult. Some herbs are to be avoided by children, like say licorice. Licorice root is not, you know, taken medicinally. It should not be taken by children. Licorice, I know.
For the stomach.
It is, but certain, you know, not all herbs are made alike. Not all people are made alike, and depending on how skinny or, you know, more voluptuous we are, we may be able to take a certain dosage or a certain herb that some people cannot. And you know, depending on your body makeup, certain herbs may be good for you, whereas certain herbs are not. But I did like, and I'll get into that point a little bit more in a second, about, you know, your body makeup and which herbs may be better for you than other herbs. But as my mother was stating, when you look at the packages now, I think you'll be more aware of certain things. When you look at like a tea or herbal formula or a vitamin that you have, if you look at it, you'll see a lot of like words that may not make any sense, like the scientific names of herbs. A lot of times companies will do that because it makes it seem more official. It's a lot of times it's just some grass from outside, but You know, you put that scientific name, it's like, what is this? What does this mean? What's a good one? Resveratrol. Has anybody heard of resveratrol? That's stuff that you find in red wine. They say it makes it so good for your heart and things like that. Resveratrol is a constituent, a phytochemical found in red wine, found in a plant called Japanese knotweed. And depending on the formulation, or depending on where you buy it, you probably aren't going to see the name Japanese knotweed written ever. It's a Chinese herb. It's an Asian herb that you probably see the Chinese name for it, which I can't remember right now offhand. Or you'll see japonica. It'll come to me. But you'll see the scientific name for it on packages, and they'll market it, and it's extremely expensive. And when I say extremely expensive, I'm saying $60 for 60 capsules. I'm not talking about, cheap. And it's because it's thought to be like the fountain of youth. It's good for restoring your body, restoring your skin, just, making you vital, again, more like your youthly state. And it's very good for your heart. But it's usually marketed as resveratrol. It's not usually marketed as a plant. And what's another? So, in terms, did you want to say something?
Oh no, I said I was just talking under my breath. Or a nuisance. Not weed is considered.
Oh yeah.
First of all, I think you already said, or maybe you said that the only difference between weed and preferred plants is whether or not you want it. The things that we call weed are just things that somebody else has told us are not desirable. The Japanese knotweed is considered a nuisance all over most over the South, but all over the country, and they try and control it. So it's very important if you're collecting that particular herb to make sure it's not been sprayed or something. But yeah, and it'll grow through the root of the foundation of your house.
So you don't want to see around your roots.
So yeah, sometimes I wonder about these weed classifications and things that are considered nuisances. So it's said that Japanese knotweed will grow through the foundation of your house, that the roots will go so deep that they can grow through. But I don't know how. But the thing is about this herb is that it's so good for your health, and it grows so abundantly that a lot of people must need it. When you see something that's growing so abundantly, a lot of people must need it. It's like the herb is trying to talk to you, like, hey, let me in. Hey, I'm here. I'm right here. Look at me. Can you see me? And people just ignore it, or they try to kill it with Roundup. Yeah. And by the way, Roundup, that pesticide, only kills beneficial weeds. It only kills things that are helpful to your body. Wow. So dandelions that people say are weeds or a nuisance, they're a perfect heart tonic.
No, they were just saying back here that it's cancer causing as well, right?
Oh yes. Roundup, those pesticides are cancer causing, and oddly enough, the same plants that they're trying to kill with the Roundup will prevent, or even, I can't say cure cancer. I can't say that it cures anything, but those same herbs they're killing would prevent the cancer, or help remedy the body of cancer. Well, there's no money in wellness. Right. There's no money in wellness. There's no money in going outside and standing in the sunlight. Right. But those are the main things that will keep you healthy. Water, sunlight. We're a lot like the plants. Right. In terms of what we need for our bodies. Like we need water, sunlight, and food, just like plants do. Yeah. But in terms of our body makeups and what we need, when we look at the different systems of herbalism, and we try to get back to the most original systems of anything, to try to see what's correct in terms of what to do. And the oldest systems of herbalism, of course, are from Africa. And we know that because the Greeks told us that that's where they got their medicinal systems from, was from Kemet, or what we consider Egypt now. That they adopted Egyptian medicine. And in Egyptian medicine and in older systems of medicine, you take into account the person's personality, their mental makeup, their spiritual makeup, and their physical makeup. And what's obvious to us a lot of times is our physical makeup. Are we tall? Are we skinny? Are we thick and voluptuous? You know, those types of makeups require different types of nutrition, different types of medicine. And back in the day, food was medicine and medicine was food. So when we talk about,
Well, I just wanted to say real quick too that what you're saying is in alignment with everything that we talk about as far as culture. Because when you're talking about culture, you're talking about something specific as far as when you're talking about culture, you're talking about something specific. As far as like, think about it, only all the stuff that we have is based off of one type of person. And it's usually, not to try and cast aspersions, it's usually going to be like a white male, not even a female. So like if you're gonna drink baby formula is only created for one type of person to grow into an adult version of that person. So it's like the same thing. Like we'll just go, oh yeah, somebody's overweight. Well, overweight according to what? Like you could be. There's a lot of people that are quote unquote quote overweight unquote, and their body, like they could do more things and live longer than somebody who's skinny. Like we just assume that just because you're skinny or you're using these terms fat or thick or misshapen or obese or and obese I guess technically is supposed to be a specific thing, but even in that, who's to say what obese is depending on what your actual body type is? So a lot of times we're eating the way somebody else should eat and not based upon what we should eat.
Absolutely. Pastor brought up some really great points. So when someone's being prescribed medicine, and a prescription is a whole other thing. A prescription was a death note. Mm-hmm. So back in the Roman days when they talked about prescriptions, it meant that you were either going to be fired or killed. That's what a prescription was. But these days when they write a prescription, it's based on a 125-pound white male. So that's a very specific body type and person that they are prescribing to. And in the constitutional system, the ancient system of what's considered Ayurveda, which is kind of a child of the African systems. So the humoral systems in terms of like body constitution, in terms of personality, in terms of spiritual aspects, comes from Africa. So when we try to look back to Africa, we look at these systems that incorporate the same types of practices that an African system would use, such as looking at the person. You look at the person, you listen to the person, you would, feel the person. So you feel them spiritually. You would hear them to understand what they're going through mentally. And you look at them, because we do this, intrinsically. We do this, by our own nature, by our own instinct. We can look at somebody and tell if they're well, if they're sick. True. We can look at somebody and tell if they're skinny or if they're more voluptuous. That's very obvious to us. So in terms of someone who is considered more lean and tall, that type of body type or constitution or humor would be considered a Vata type constitution. They tend to run a little drier, a little colder. They tend to have issues in their joints, a lot of times issues with their lungs. In terms of someone who is more, and their personality is usually more whimsical, more artistic, more what you call open-minded. They're usually more free-spirited and can go with the flow better than a lot of people. They're more airy in their feelings. And then there's another body type that's more muscular, more driven, more fiery. Their personalities tend to be fiery. They tend to be what you consider like they are really in shape. Like when you look at them, you can tell they're very muscular. Like their build is muscular. Their personality is driven, fiery, and they tend to have disorders like arthritis. After a while, they tend to have digestive issues like acid reflux because they have a lot of fire in their belly. You know, they tend to be more fixed in their personality because, you know, they are representing fire and water. So they're representing a lot of elements. Their personalities don't tend to be someone who's, they're more idealistic. They have ideals and standards, and, you know, they're the type of person who would probably be a great politician or someone like that, someone who's very ambitious. And then there is the kapha body type, or the more voluptuous, juicy body type that we say. Someone who, you know, has a jovial personality. They have a great smile. They make you feel comforted when you're around them. They're comforting. They're comfortable. They tend to be more well nourished, and then they tend, you know, to have nice supple skin and things like that. They tend to have excess mucus build up also because they're wet, you know. And when you have a lot of moisture, you have a lot of water in your system, you tend to, you know, collect toxins in the form of mucus. So there are different body types. So there's, you know, so when we're looking at, say, the more voluptuous or the kapha body type, would we want to feed them more sweet things, or would we want to feed them more bitter things?
Bitter.
So, Pastor Hamilton, you say bitter.
Yeah.
Anybody else have a? So, if someone tends to be more voluptuous, would you feed them sweeter herbs or more bitter herbs? So we got like 6 people saying bitter. So sweet encourages the appetite. So herbs that are sweet encourage you to eat more. So if you're already, you know, have a tendency to eat more, or have a tendency to go for things that are sweet, you don't necessarily need to eat more sweet. Right. You may want to eat more things that are going to help you with your digestion, help you with alleviating the mucus, something that's astringent, drying, that's going to help pull that mucus out of your system. Like, say, you'd want to have something that's going to get rid of that excess fluid, like the dandelion. You want to have some burdock to help clear out that fluid retention that's, you know, causing some of the weight gain, or, you know, being more to one side or the other. Because life is about harmony. And so when we're too to one side, we're too wet or we're too dry, then it's a problem. And so basically, when we're using herbs as food or as medicine, we're trying to bring our bodies back into harmony. And we can tell when our bodies are in harmony based on, you know, how we're feeling, our attitude, or symptoms. You know, we can tell when something's not right.
And it's affected on both sides too. I don't
know what happened to the other microphone.
I'm be quick. It's affected on both sides too, right? Because you have it's affected on both sides because, like, also too, if I'm too something in the physical, right, then it's gonna cause me to be that in the spiritual as well, and vice versa. If I'm too dry or too wet, so to speak, if I'm too into one thing in the spirit, it can become a problem with manifestation because only one part of me is manifesting to the physical as well.
Pastor brings up a great point. If we're out of harmony, which, you know, either you have harmony and ease, or you have disharmony and dis-ease, and the further you go to one side or the other, is indicative of the way you're going to feel, the way you're going to act, and whatever's happening physically is also happening spiritually. So if something's going wrong in your spiritual state, it's going to manifest as illness in the body. or as harmony in the body. If you are someone who has an enormous amount of faith, you're okay. I don't want to say that too much, because sometimes it's not, dis-ease comes from generational curses as well. It's not always the person's necessarily fault that they've developed something. It could be that something that someone else did is now being manifest in the physical upon them, but it manifested somewhere. It either manifested in the spiritual first, and then it happened in the physical, or it happened in the physical, and now it's going to the spiritual. Because if your mind's not right, your body's not going to be right, and your body's not right, your mind's not going to be right. They go hand in hand. And a lot of people, even saying that, a lot of people who suffer from depression, they have messed up digestion. If something's messed up in the stomach, you're not going to be able to think right.
Say that again.
Yeah, so let me say that again. So if something's messed up in your stomach, you're not going to be able to think right. 9.999 times out of 100, or out of 10, whatever, if someone has digestive issues, they're going to have depression. They're going to suffer from suicidal thoughts. They're going to more likely have anxiety. When people talk about that feeling in your stomach, that nervous feeling in your stomach, like gut feeling, people know these things naturally. People have been talking about these things for hundreds or thousands of years. But it's like, the knowledge has been lost or has been ignored, been suppressed. The knowledge has been suppressed. We know, we start listening to ourselves, we listen to the way we talk, we'll know how things work. You can always go by your gut feeling. And why is that? Because your gut is your second brain. If your gut's not working, then up here's not working either. And up here's not working, your gut's not going to be working right either. So, let's, hold on just a second. Let me get the microphone.
I can talk. It's just incredible to me. It's just incredible to me that the Creator gave us a backup for every system. The gut is the second brain. The calves, the muscles in the calves are your second heart. You're going to push that blood back up if the heart's not working properly, if they're working properly. So I just...
I wanted to say that I can't think of the phrase that the pastor always say, but sometimes we try to make things too woo-woo. And when we say spiritual, we need to understand it's not about something, I know, but when people don't understand things first spiritual than natural, and so we have to really heal the spiritual man, and we can then heal the natural man. And we just, when we hear spiritual, we think like Wiccan or something. It's intention. It's not evil when you say the word spiritual. Like you said earlier in the class, you have to understand the culture. So I want people to understand when you use the word spiritual, you got to get out of, know the culture we're talking about, and then that way you won't err.
That is such a great point that Minister Sonia was bringing up, that, we have to make this thing practical. It's spiritual and practical. And when we're talking about spiritual, like she said, we have to know things in spirit and in truth. So just because, there are certain, and we have to look at where the culture is coming from. Who's the author of this? What who is telling you to do what it's telling you to do? We read from the Bible in Revelation 22:2 that the leaves of the trees are for the healing of the nation. Now we've been told whether we use it or not is up to us. And we know that it's coming from a good, the best author. We know that the author of this practice, the author of this system, is the Most High, who has told us that these plants are to be used to heal us.
Minister Maya said it earlier also. If you look at some of your prescriptions, you're going to see those herbs in your prescription. I don't know if you caught it, But she said it from the beginning. If you look at some of these things we're consuming, and they're making billions off of it, it's right here in the garden. It's right here on the earth that, you know, Yah has planted for us. So just think about the ingredients. They're there. They're there.
Yeah, Minister Sonia brings up a great point in terms of our awareness of what it is we're putting in our bodies. Because, you know, it's a good practice to know exactly what we're taking, exactly what we're eating, and having that awareness to look at the labels and say, hold on, Artemisia vulgaris, that's a mugwort. They put this in this dessert because it is sweet. It does taste good and it has a good flavor. It's an aromatic. You know, and when we think about herbs, we don't necessarily think about, you know, going to our kitchen cupboard and pulling down that rosemary, which is an adaptogen. And when I say adaptogen, it means it helps your body adapt to the situation or to the stress. So, you know, if you're tired and you take some rosemary, then it'll make you alert. It'll make your brain function more. It'll help your circulation. And if you need to sleep, it'll also allow your body to go into a state of relaxation. And that's the thing about herbs. They're complex. They have a personality that's complex, just like our personality is complex. The same herb that will make you stop bleeding, like this yarrow here. I don't know if you guys want to taste this. It's very bitter. A bitter and astringent herb. A bitter and astringent herb would be good for digestion. It'll be good for astringent herbs will stop bleeding. They will also start bleeding. Like say someone can't have their menstrual cycle and they need to bleed for their body to be healed. The yarrow starts bleeding. Say someone has a wound on their arm and they press that yarrow on their arm. It'll make it stop bleeding immediately. So it's great for first aid as well. And the thing about yarrow is everywhere. It's ubiquitous. You can find it anywhere. In any state, you're going to find it. It's not from here. It's from Europe. But you will find it growing all over the place here. It's named after Achilles, the scientific name. All these scientific names come from, you know, a Latin system. So they're named after, and when you talk about cultures, and you start thinking about the system that things come from, you'll realize that, you know, if you look at the author, you'll understand why they named things the way they did. Just like all the planets were named after Greek and Roman gods, it's because they're the authors of that classification system. So when we're talking about herbs, a lot of times they're going to have a scientific name, which is really a religious name from their culture. So Achilles, cinnamon. You find the yarrow. Hold on.
Yes.
That's called yarrow.
I find it cinnamony. I don't know why. It's just
Again, different people.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Say.
Different from Sister Moselle. This is horrible. I mean, it's bitter. It's very bitter. I shouldn't say horrible. I'm sorry, but it's very, very strong, very bitter.
Sorry, I meant to pass around the spoon. So we were passing around the herb yarrow to taste it, and we had two different experiences. One person said that the yarrow was kind of sweet and kind of cinnamony, kind of like aromatic tasting, and another person said it's bitter, highly bitter. And you know, when I taste a yarrow, it's extremely bitter to me. But you know, depending on our genetic makeup, our body makeup, the way we experience herbs is going to be different. The taste is going to be different, and the effect that they have on our body is going to be different as well. So,
and I think the contrast. I think the contrast was really between like how you consume it. Now I don't know for sure. I don't think she chewed it long enough. I think she tasted it, and she like did it a couple of times and went on down, and she got that, because I'm feeling where she got that from, but because of how we've been taught to properly eat, to properly consume. Just word to the wise, a lot of people, if you have indigestion, not going against any of the teaching, this is just to add on. A lot of us, we were taught, my generation, we were taught to chew your food a certain amount of time. And if you know anything about the elderly eat something called puree. Mm-hmm. Literally, that food should be like puree before you swallow it. Because you're swallowing chunks of food. Half of the time, when you half your food you're swallowing is still chunky. And that's why your stomach can't properly digest it.
Exactly.
Well, because we've been taught to we taught ourselves to how to eat because of what we went through. I chew stuff till it's mush. Yeah. And when I first started chewing it, I didn't get the bitter. But by near the end, when it was nothing liquidated, I got the full effect of the bitter.
And Minister Joseph also brings up a really great point of, the digestive piece and chewing, because, your body is going to break it down, but if you break it down for it, it's going to make it a lot easier to digest. So before it gets to your stomach, if you break it down as much as you can, it's going to be a whole lot easier to digest and pull the nutrients that you need from it. And yeah, I was surprised when you said that yarrow tasted sweet, because it tastes very bitter to me. And those are yarrow flowers that y'all were trying.
Which is the most potent part, or no?
I'm curious as to
How
you gonna. So I'm passing around some hibiscus flowers.
Yes, a visco fan.
So I'm gonna show the people at home the yarrow. So they are these are dried yarrow flowers. The flowers of yarrow are extremely small, and the medicinal ones are white. They have different varieties that they've made over time by kind of genetically modifying them. But the white yarrow flowers are tending to be the medicinal ones, and they're tiny little flowers. And yarrow gets its name, millefolium, Achillea millefolium, because the leaves are branched off into many little different leaves. So it's called 1,000 leaves. And right now we're passing out the hibiscus. And we're going to talk about how the hibiscus tastes and feels. If you think it's drying or moistening, if you think it's sour or bitter or pungent, how it's hitting your tongue, how it's making your body feel.
She said she's still chewing.
Hibiscus tastes like soy sauce, but it feels like eating a raisin.
Oh yeah, the texture. Yeah. So the texture of the flowers is kind of chewy. And one of the ministers and sisters here said that the flowers taste like soy sauce. Like a sour lime, yeah.
Tastes good though.
Coming into like a
Citrusy.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's really tangy and citrusy.
What vitamin would you think that give it that flavor?
orange.
Vitamin C.
Vitamin C.
I was going to say C.
Like an orange, or a lemon or citrus or lime.
Right.
But the hibiscus, so hibiscus is used for lowering blood pressure, balancing blood sugar, healing the skin. So anything that's working on the skin is, working on detoxifying the liver. So, oh yeah, hibiscus is a dye. Yes. It has a beautiful deep red color to it. It makes a nice natural dye. It's even though it's kind of sour and tart in your mouth, it calms and soothes the body. Yeah, it's relaxing. So it'll help blood flow by increasing the dilation Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's very soothing, and it's, anybody can take, hibiscus. Because I'm nice, I'm gonna let y'all taste chasterberries.
She said because
I hope y'all have a bottle of water.
Uh-oh. Right. That was a setup.
It'd be easier for me to.
What you need?
Giving everybody a couple of chasterberries, not too many, maybe like 3, 4 berries.
I'm scared now.
Yeah, we need what we need.
I'm scared to bite until I'm rolling around. She actually drank water. So are they spicy?
Spicy? No, it's not spicy.
I just got a bowl of my
Chasterberries.
to bite it. She said,
Yeah. Kofi has them.
that's why I said,
They walk around. I mean, they can have more if they like, but.
Oh.
right.
The Jamaican drink. So the Jamaican drink sorrel is made out of hibiscus flowers. And you don't hear too many Jamaicans talk about they have hypertension or high cholesterol or anything like that, or a lot of diabetes, because the hibiscus is good for maintaining your blood sugar, getting rid, blood sugar issues will cause high cholesterol. Blood sugar issues will cause hypertension, will cause atherosclerosis, or the hardening of blood vessels, will cause pancreatic damage, which, if one organ gets damaged, what do you think happens to the rest of them? So if one organ gets damaged, that means the other ones have to work harder to take up for any functions that organ did not do. So that means it wears on the other organs more and puts stress on the body.
Okay, what's the seed? Because Pastor Kofi missed me with the seeds. So what?
Chasterberry.
Chasterberry. So chasterberry is also known as Vitex. Is anybody familiar with Vitex? It's usually used as a feminine tonic, and also an anti-tumor. So it's good for tumors, cancers. Yeah, cancers, tumors, expelling them from the body. But it's used for anything that's used for the female reproductive system can also be used for the male reproductive system. It may not have equal effects. It may have more of an effect on the female reproductive system, but that Vitex, that chasterberry, can be used by male or female. Yes.
So for most of the seeds and things of sort, if you use it for a certain health, benefit, how often or should you use it? Maybe is it something like maybe once a month, every day? Should you use it possibly like every day or every other day, or depending on what you're using, or?
So depending on what you're using, so like we said, the nutritive herbs, like the dandelion, that mugwort, what else do we have that was sweet here? Mint, any of those. You can eat those every day as much as you want. No issue. Alfalfa, things like that. Oats. Oats are eaten every day, just like food. If you're taking something that's for more like of an acute usage, or to say you have parasites. I'm not saying you have parasites, but say you had parasites. You probably take like wormwood and black walnut hulls. and clove. And those are very strong, pungent herbs that you'd only want to take for a short amount of time, 2 to 3 weeks max. And they should work within that amount of time. They, and most of the time they're not going to taste good. Herbs that are like highly medicinal, highly used for strong and used for acute purposes, that are higher on the safety scale. So there's a safety scale for herbs too. So those that are like sweet and nutritious that you can eat every day, they're like a 1. The ones that are poisonous, like there's actually poisons that are used. Like, has anybody ever heard of pokeweed?
Yes.
So pokeweed is a poison, and you can only take a little bit, and you can only take it for a little while. Pokeweed is a broad spectrum antibiotic, antiviral, antifungal, and so if a broad spectrum antibiotic won't work, pokeweed will work. And if that doesn't work, then you're in big trouble. You're in serious trouble. There's also like foxglove or digitalis, which is a heart medication. It's used to slow down the heart. But if it's used in the wrong hands or not, pharmaceutical companies use it all the time for heart medications, and very like master herbalists use it because it's a poison. And so if it's taken for too long in the wrong amount, it's deadly. So it does depend on the herb, but most herbs that are sold in like health food stores are pretty harmless. Like the only one that they kind of caution against is like say comfrey. They say take it externally, but it's good for you internally too. But it's very effective. So a lot of times when herbs are very effective, they become illegal or they get a bad rap. Like marijuana or like ephedra. Ephedra was helping people be slim and live that life, but pharmaceutical companies couldn't stand it, so they gave it a bad rap and made it illegal for a while. Now it's not illegal anymore. But I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story.
I was just wondering, like how we're talking about herbs, and you notice in the grocery store, they're herbs and spices. And of course, clove and nutmeg and cinnamon and stuff like that. They are high scale medicinal and they are spicy. Sometimes I wonder if in the food we eat, if that's the only thing that's actually nourishing us, and we're just getting a lot of fluff. Otherwise, the one thing like with the nutmeg is, I believe Dick Gregory said that was the main component of methamphetamine.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So somebody.
Nutmeg is extremely expensive, and the nutmeg people use it to get high. Yeah, it is the main component of meth. So drugs like ephedra, they became illegal because people would make meth out of that. Meth is a stimulant, of course. It makes you like feel like Superman, but also make your teeth and hair and stuff like that fall out as well. But that's taken as a pharmaceutical. Like when you take any chemical, if you take any biochemical component and you isolate it, it becomes a drug. Because it's going to act on your system, like I said, it's going to act on your system very aggressively and may put your body into a state of shock. And that shock may give you an immediate result, like when you take aspirin. Aspirin is a single compound that was isolated from the white willow bark. And if you take it, the salicylic acid as aspirin, it's going to have pretty immediate effect, take away the headache, take away the body pain, but it's also going to have an effect on your organs, on your liver, because it's working very quickly to do what it does.
It was first isolated from the white willow, but now it's made in the lab. It's just you just pour some vials of stuff together.
Yeah, that's a great point. Aspirin used to be natural. It used to come from white willow bark, which they isolated it and made it into a drug. But now they've taken it a step further and become extremely cheap and started synthesizing fake aspirin, fake salicylic acid, and that's what they're using as aspirin these days. It used to come from white willow. It doesn't anymore.
Question. In the items you had us to sample and taste,
was any of those used for pain management?
Yes.
What would that be? I'm gonna tell you where I'm at.
Okay. So yarrow, it was one of the ones that's great for pain. And pain. So pain is caused by a couple things. So either it's by pressure, by something, swelling and giving you pain or it's like out of place, and so it's creating pressure in that way, or swelling and it's creating pain because, it's creating excess pressure, or by a germ, a pathogen, that's causing your body to go into an immune response. So when our immune system is activated, whenever we get something in our body that shouldn't be in there, our body sends off a whole bunch of red flags, and one of those red flags is inflammation. Our body sends blood to an area, it makes it heat up, it makes it swell, and so that causes pain. So it depends on where the pain is coming from, what's causing the pain, as to which herb you may want to leave. But yarrow is it's good for pain.
I can say yarrow actually works. This morning, for some reason, I was showering, and I don't know what I did to my arm. I went to dry myself off, and my arm made the terriblest sound, like it was breaking. So I could not put my arm behind my back like this earlier without crying. Now I can put my arm behind my back. Yeah, I can actually put my arm behind my back, and it doesn't hurt, so I can sit like this, and it's not hurting. As to where earlier, this arm was like, oh, and Joe said, do we need to go to like the ER in Michigan? Like, that's not cool. Can you drive? I'm like, yes, I got this. So now my arm is not hurting. So I was just wondering. So all praise to the Most High Yah. Ooh, and that's the stuff that I thought was nasty. Ooh.
Yeah. You needed it. You needed it badly.
I evidently needed it.
When you react to something in that manner, usually it's because you need it. It needs you.
Question. You talked about the pokeweed.
Yes.
Or poke salad.
Yes.
Down south, and you can't find many people who can do it anymore. But that's they cook it like greens.
Yes.
And I've always heard that you had to cook it, prepare it properly, or it will kill you or make you very sick. And so, please, if you can, explain how do you properly prepare it for greens?
So poke salad is actually a plant. Pokeweed is actually native to the United States. It's called Phytolacca americana. You see it everywhere.
Yeah, we had it in Maryland.
It's that it can become like a tree. It can be like tiny, or it can be taller than you, and it has like a red stem and the green leaves or whatever. And so you want to take the leaves when they're very young, the smaller leaves. You want to take the smaller leaves in the spring most of the time when they're first sprouting is where you want to take them. You don't want them to get too mature because the mature ones have more of the poisons in them, the more of the toxic compounds in them. So you want to take the smaller, tender leaves because they have a lot less of the toxins
When
in
there
them.
are no berries.
Oh yes, before they so the more mature the plant, so berries, fruit, all that, those are the ovaries of the plant. And when they ripen, that means that they're mature. They're ready to reproduce, just like us. When we ripen, we're ready to reproduce. So if you see fruit on something, that means that it's ripe and it's it's in a mature state. So before any seeds, any fruit on the poke salad, you want to take the little leaves and then you gather as much as you want, and then you want to boil them in a clean pot of water. You want to dump that water off. You want to boil them again in a clean pot of water, probably about 20 minutes each cycle. If you want to be extra careful, you can do it a third time. Dump that off, and then you can boil it or you can fry it. I hear a lot of people that fry it with bacon or pork or a meat, tallow, beef fat, because fat is also a protective from poison as well. So a lot of people like to cook it in eggs. You can cook it, you can eat it any way you would eat spinach, but it apparently has a much more fragrant taste to it, like a very particular taste that people love. So, to be careful with it, especially if it's your first time having it, you probably want to do 3 changes of water. So boiling it 3 times, taking just the young tender leaves. Like the more used to something you grew up eating it every day, then you might get away with just boiling it once. Because you're used to it. But if you're new to it, you want to eat only a little bit. You just with these herbs. Like we didn't go ham and just eat a whole salad of them. We taste a little piece of it to see how our bodies react to it. So with any herbs especially, especially like a pokeweed or something like that, you take a little bit and see how your body reacts. Then you can go in for more. You know.
Down south. Do we call?
Oh, sorry, my time is basically up. Look here.
Okay. Do we call pork poke? So your poke salad is your bacon and the greens.
So this concludes our herbalism talk. I went to the limit, over the limit. Oh, thank you. I'm glad y'all can hear over there. I'm glad. But yeah, I'm up 3 minutes over my time. And he's going to move into the next portion.
Beautiful. Yay! That was a beautiful testimony. Did you get something in the room?
I was saying like, wait a minute, I'm back.
All righty. Amen. So if we can, just real quick, so we can keep everything on track, so we can make sure that we still got a lot of stuff to do before we take our leave for the day. So if we can, we're just going to go ahead and pray over the food, and everybody can go grab some at the same time if you'd like to. Be supportive. We do have some baptismal candidates that we're going to baptize. Amen. Amen. So, but we'll go ahead and say a quick prayer over the food and over the baptism. Amen. Amen. All right. So if we can, Solomon, you said you gonna pray with me over the food. Okay. All right. If we can just quiet down where we are real quick, just for a second. I promise, just for a second, so we can go ahead and get this baptism, pray over the food. All right. All right. You gonna finish up the prayer over the food, okay? Matter of fact, you pray over the food. You start.
God, bless the food. Let it be healthy. Let it be okay. Let it be healthy, God. Let it be healthy. Let the food be okay. Bless the hands of the earth in the body that we can receive it. Amen.
Heavenly Father, we pray for those that are getting baptized. We pray for the baptism. Allow this to be something that flows, and we also agree with the baptisms that have already taken place to this point, or prior to this point. This is the name of Yahweh that we pray and give you thanks. Amen. All right, so those getting baptized, we'll try and meet over here in a little bit. We got a little area. We took some pictures and stuff earlier if you want to do that too. And then we'll go ahead and go into the water. Amen. And those who are on Zoom, we're going to take a break. We're going to eat. And we're going to be back in place here about 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern New York time for the minutes of training to give a word. And then we'll take a break from there. And then at 7, we're going to have a word throughout the rest of the night with a couple breaks mixed in. Thank you all so much for being on. We appreciate you. Amen. We'll be back on about 5 p.m. Eastern. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, guys.
Oh, he loves me, Mo. He loves me. He comes in with a big